Hey guys, I am Meredith and welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, I'm going to be tackling cross stitch. Now, if you've watched my other videos so far this month, you know that I'm focusing primarily on learning some new skills. Cross stitch is one that I've wanted to tackle for quite a while. So I'm actually going to be doing a pattern from this book. It's called Feminist Icon Cross Stitch, and this has 30 different designs that are all to celebrate strong women, which I myself am 100% a intersectional feminist. So I thought that this would be something fun to do. So I am very, very excited to give this a shot. Now, cross stitch, as far as like embroidery goes, I think is one of the more simple techniques, at least from what I know about embroidery. So the main things you need for cross stitch is you need Aida cloth, A-I-D-A cloth. It looks like this. It's a really, really stiff cotton, and the reason why you want this for cross stitch, because you are basically just making a bunch of little X's. This has very clear boxes on it for you to stitch on. So this is the kind of fabric that you will need, and then it also recommends using tapestry needles, which I'd never really heard of before, but they're just needles that are blunt, they're not sharp, and that just helps to keep from like damaging your pattern on the back. You'll also need a hoop. This is a 7.5-inch hoop, and this is going to be pretty much the perfect size for the design that I am doing, and then just a pair of scissors. So that's everything that you need. So let me show you the design that I'm going to be doing. So I'm actually not going to be doing a portrait just because I saw there's also like a little section of quotes in the back that I thought were really cute. So I'm going to be doing this one that says a woman needs a man like a fish needs a bicycle, which, hello, preach, so true. So each page it has what the finished product is supposed to look like, and then on the other page it has the pattern to follow. So the pattern looks fairly simple. It's basically just a grid, and then it has the boxes filled in for where the different stitches are gonna go. So it's not like, I'm not gonna be transferring this onto my actual cloth. I'm gonna have to just count stitches to see where this is gonna go. But I think I have a method that I wanna try to make this a little bit easier. So very first and foremost, we need to go ahead and prep our hoop. And you wanna make sure there's a fairly decent amount of excess on all the sides. You can always trim excess off, but if you make it too small, that's it. So I always like to go a little bit larger. To put this fabric in, you're gonna loosen up the outer ring of the hoop, take that out so you have the inner ring and the outer ring, and then I'm gonna take my fabric and lay it down on top of that smaller one. And then I'm gonna take my larger outside ring and wrap that around. Dang, this is stiff fabric. Okay. So now that that is pressed on, I'm going to start tightening the outside hoop. So now I have my piece of fabric with my hoop on it. The way that this pattern works is they do tell you exactly what colors you need. So this goes off of DMC colors. DMC is just a very well-known brand that makes embroidery floss. So that is the colors that they have listed. So if you look at the top of the pattern, it has all 3 of the colors listed for that corresponds with the DMC thread that you would buy. But I can do whatever colors I want. So I got this blue, purple, and green metallic embroidery floss. So hopefully this isn't too difficult to work with. Probably should have gone with regular thread for my first cross stitch, but you know, I always like to challenge myself. So we're gonna see how that turns out. What I wanted to do before I actually start cross stitching is I'm going to mark out where my pattern's gonna go. Now, the book didn't tell me to do this. I'm just making the choice to do this because I think it will just make it easier for me to already know where those X's are gonna go before I start doing the cross stitching. This is a little fabric pin that they're very, very popular. It's the one with the blue tip and the purple tip. I'm sure if you've been in a sewing store, you have seen this before. But one side is disappearing ink and one is mark be gone. The disappearing ink, just like it says, disappears after a while, and the mark be gone washes out. So I'm going to use the purple side, which is the disappearing ink, and I'm going to put a tiny little dot on each of the pieces for where those stitches are actually going to go. Like I said, the book did not tell me to do this, but I think it will just make things a lot easier, especially because I've never done this before. I don't want to have to sit here and figure out exactly where these stitches are going to go, like as I'm doing it. I want to do it ahead of time, that way I can just go. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to get y'all zoomed in so I can show you what that looks like, and then we'll be ready to cross stitch. If you are new to cross stitch, I 1,000,000% recommend doing this step as well. I think that it saved me a ton of time and made things a lot simpler for me. Okay, I was hoping I'd be able to do the whole thing first, but this ink is actually fading a lot faster than I thought it was going to. So I've got the first word done. I've got bicycle just lightly done on there. So for this pattern, I'm gonna do the ones that would be navy in green. So these letters will be green. The ones in orange will be the purple, and then the ones in yellow are gonna be the blue. So since bicycle is the first one that I have, and I'm gonna be doing that one in blue, the blue is gonna be the first color that I'm gonna go for. So let me go ahead and put this on my needle. And the book recommended working with about an 18-inch piece of thread. So I'm just gonna cut off this much for right now. I can always get more if I need it. So now to start this, I'm gonna be kind of paraphrasing their instructions, but basically we need to start from the back. So you can see here, this is where my first letter is. And so that, I'm gonna go ahead and start with this, the very first little X right there. So what they say is you're gonna come up from the bottom right, or excuse me, bottom left corner. And they tell you not to tie a knot, that you should just leave a couple of inches out in the back and just hold on to it while you're sewing. But they do not tell you to make a knot. So you see how I went in there, and now I'm going to, now that I've gone through that corner one, I'm gonna go across, because this has all the little boxes on it. I'm gonna go across and go down diagonal. That makes the first little X. And then I will go up from the bottom left, it's right here. And then go over diagonally again. And that is my first cross stitch. Now, the book did recommend, so embroidery floss comes with 6 strands of thread. What they recommend doing is separating it into 3-strand bundles. Let me tell you what, I'm not gonna take the time to do that. This might end up looking a little bit more 3D than was originally intended, especially because this is a metallic thread. It's already bulkier than regular thread. I don't care. I'm just gonna sew it the way that it comes, because I just cannot be bothered to split all these up into 3-strand bundles. I'm not gonna do that. But it is what the book recommends, so if you're doing this and you wanna follow this to the letter, then you'd wanna go through and all the pieces that you cut, you'd wanna separate them into 2 sets of 3 strands. So what they also recommend here is that you can do like multiple stitches at a time, sort of. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do this first row right down here, do these right in a row. So what you can do instead of doing the cross every time is you're gonna come up, oh, I see, this is where it's gonna get a little bit more complicated. So I'm gonna go back up through that second bottom side, so that other bottom left, and go over again diagonally, over the next box. And then instead of doing the other diagonal one across, I'm gonna go over to the next box and go up again through the bottom right, or bottom left, excuse me, goodness, don't know my directions. So that makes the diagonal that goes from the bottom left to the top right. Go back down through here, just making all the ones that go across. So now to go back over, I'm gonna do the same thing but in reverse. So I'm gonna start here and go up through the bottom right, and oh, easier said than done, there we go. Bottom right, and then over to top left, which would be the shared hole of the one next to it. All right, and that's one tiny row out of a ton that need to be done. Oh God, I might have to edit how I'm doing this thread in the future, because well, I've already gone this far on the B. Let me just keep going. Well, y'all, it's day 2. Day 2 working on this cross stitch, because let me tell you, when I was talking all that mad crap about not being bothered to separate those bundles of thread into 2 separate bundles of 3, I really played myself, because I was just being super cocky and thought that I could get by without doing that and it was going to work out okay, but it did not. So let me show y'all what this looks like. So the B is the one that I did with the 6 layers of thread, and it just looks, I couldn't even finish it because it was so like bumpy and just like packed full of thread. So I finished the rest of this with the 3 strands, and obviously it looks a ton better. So I'm gonna have to remove these out of here and then try it again. So I'm gonna go ahead and start trying to pick out these stitches. Woo! Make sure y'all learn from my mistakes, y'all, because that was not enjoyable whatsoever. So I am gonna have to get a new piece of yarn, or a new piece of floss to finish this bee off. So I figured since I'm gonna have to split this into 2 bundles, I'll just show you how I've been doing it, just because they tend to get really tangled. So this will kind of start to fray, and then I separate it into 2, and then I don't know if this is like the proper way to do it, but I just very carefully take my finger between the 2 layers and kind of, you're gonna have to kind of untwist the thread a little bit to separate it without it like getting super tangled. All right, and then now that's separated, I'm gonna lay that one down. And then this wants to go ahead and like wrap itself around again because you just separated all those layers. So again, I'm not a scientist at how to do this. I don't know if that's the correct way that you're supposed to do it, but that's the way I have been doing it, and then I kind of just try to reincorporate those threads back together as best I can. So that is how I've been separating those bundles. I'm gonna finish this bee real quick. I'm gonna zoom y'all in real quick so you can see the new stitches up close. The method's still exactly the same, but just so you can see the difference in the 3 threads versus the 6. So let me zoom y'all in. Okay, so the first of 8 words is done. After working on this for, I don't know, I've been working on this for probably about 4 or 5 hours now, just doing the 1 word. So I was hoping that I could do this whole thing on camera with you guys, but it's just gonna take way too long. So don't tell my boss, but I'm gonna work on this tomorrow during my work meetings, and then I will get back with y'all once this is finished to go over my final thoughts. All right, I am finally finished with the entire thing. So it has not just been 1 day since I was finishing this. It has been 3 days I've been trying to finish this thing. Cross stitch takes a lot longer to do than I thought it was going to take. I have to admit, it looks really cool, very cute. I was expecting this to be like super easy because cross stitch is just literally making little X's. This is way more difficult than I thought it was going to be, but I do think that I made things a lot more difficult for myself using that metallic thread. Probably should have stuck with just traditional thread for my first time, but lesson learned. It's okay, you can get through it, it just makes things a little bit more difficult. It's pretty easy to fix mistakes that you make just because they are just X's, so you can go through and remove whatever you need and fill it in again. So overall, I guess if I had to give my cross stitch experience a rating, I'd probably give it a 5, right in the middle. Definitely not one of my favorites. It was a little bit frustrating at times, but once I like got in the flow of it, it's okay. It's just not as easy to get into the flow as some other things. We'll probably do it again. I definitely want to try cross stitch and incorporate it into a wearable item, so keep your eyes peeled for that. That will be the next time that I do cross stitch. This is the last of my series for January going over new skills. So starting next week, getting back into sewing, making some stuff for Valentine's Day. So I hope that you are excited for that. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I do try to post a video every single week. Doesn't always happen, but I do try my best. You can also find me on Instagram. My handle is So Far From Ordinary, just like my channel. So I hope to see you there, and I hope to see you on the next one. Bye guys.